Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Money on Purpose podcast. I am your host, Donette Palmore, and today my guest and I will be discussing overcoming fear and self-doubt. And I know that a lot of us struggle with this area, especially as entrepreneurs. I actually was dealing with this some self-doubt myself just a couple of days ago, so I can't wait to hear some tools and tips that my guest is going to share with us today, so that I can overcome that myself. Let me introduce my guest, Dawn Placer. She is the founder and owner of Aspire Life Coaching that has a story that creates strong credibility. Having survived a 3-year custody battle as a preteen, an attack in the street at age 16, an abusive first marriage in her 20s, and a second marriage that ended with secrets and a bankruptcy. In 2010, Dawn became a single mom of her then 4-year-old son with $3,000 to her name, no savings, and no retirement funds of any kind, a poor credit score, no job, and shared a 10 by 10 room with her son in her parents' house. By 2016, Dawn came to have 2 financial planners, several investments, retirement funds, liquid savings, 2 insurance policies, an excellent credit score, and since 2017, Dawn and her son have lived in a beautiful apartment. Dawn, welcome to the show, and thank you so very much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Dawnette, for having me here today. I'm very excited.
Yes, I'm excited for this too. As I mentioned, we all struggle with this self-doubt, so I can't wait to get that to that part. But
Mhm.
one of the first places I always start is hearing my guests' money stories, and that's because they're just so relatable to people that are listening, and then they kind of or they usually uh, morph into what they are doing today. And so, would you mind sharing a little bit more about your with your money story with us today?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, back in 2010, when I left my ex, I had $3,000 and nothing else to my name, no savings, no life insurance, no nothing. And I just had this aha moment, which some of us do, right? That get us past those fears and self doubts that said, I need to do something about this. I'm now single and I'm about to live my own life. So I reached out to some financial planners and asked for help. Every successful person asks for help. So I asked for help and guidance on how to fix my credit score. I reached out to them quite often to find out, what steps should I do next. There were actually things about credit that I would have never guessed affected your credit score. um, and then as I started building more income, I would talk to them about, okay, I don't want to be one of these eggs in one basket kind of people. Where do I put all this? So they helped me, figure that out, the different life insurance plans, the different investments. They interview you to figure out what kind of risk person you are as far
Yep.
as with your money, but they also gauge where you are in life. Like, obviously, in 2010, it's a little late start for me financially. So they also balance what you want to risk with where you need to be in the future for your retirement, for my son's college, a car, all that kind of thing. So I worked actually an hour and a half to 2 hours away and had my
Oh,
parents
wow.
help, thank God, to get my son to and from, at the time, daycare. Uh, and I hated it. It was stressful, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get past those fears and self doubts. And I like to also say, take action in your life. And it's not easy. Sometimes you have to go through the hard to get to the easy. So I went through that. And like I said, at around 2015, 2016, I amounted enough money that I was secure financially to be able to start looking for a place for my son and I to move to. And we've been happily settled since 2017.
That is amazing. That's a beautiful story. I love that. And you're right. When we're put in situations, we have a choice, right? We can either step up and take action, or we can cower back and just let things happen to us. And I love that
Yeah,
you
I like
decided
to
to
use
step up.
I like to use an analogy of the falling rock sign. If you're driving along, which I actually was recently with my son, and you see a sign that says falling rock, and it's very funny that it's singular, not plural. Only one rock is allowed to fall. But you see that sign, and when you're driving, you know, okay, caution, right? There might be some rocks in the road, something might fall, but you don't stop. You certainly don't turn back. That's your
Right.
fear. That falling rock sign is your fear and your self doubt, but
Mm.
you shouldn't allow it to stop you or, God forbid, look back or turn back. You just proceed with caution, but you can take action, right? You keep moving forward.
Right, because we actually do not stop when we see that sign on the road, right? We
Right.
continue to go. We're like, "Is there a rock falling? No, there's not. We're good." We go, and we don't turn around. So, why are we not applying that into our everyday lives? And that's what you're gonna talk to
Exactly.
us about, right? Because, we have these issues, um, fear, self-doubt, these things that kind of paralyze us in our lives. So one, where do you think that kind of stems from?
I mean, that depends on the individual. So for me, again, I came from a pretty rough background. I was abused in my first marriage. I was attacked at 16. I went through that whole 3-year custody battle. So going through all that, you do have that, am I good enough kind of
Mm,
thought process. So even when you reach the point that I did in 2010, when it was time to move forward, it takes a lot of change in mindset to say, okay, first of all, I can't let my past beat me and keep me down. And I can't let my ex or the person that attacked me, anybody else, if you allow that past and that mindset to stop you, that has all won.
mm.
So you have to make a mind shift and just realize that now it's time for me to realize that I am actually worth more and I'm worth this process that I'm about to put myself through, no matter how hard it might be, especially since I just came through much worse.
Right, right. So what was that mind shift change that you had? Like that pivotal moment you're like, I am not going to take this laying down. Like I'm going to get up and stand up and I'm going to overcome this.
Well, I mean, I think it helped that I had my son. You know, he was almost 5. And I certainly knew I didn't want to share a 10 by 10 room for too many years with
Yeah.
my son. I mean, for me, it's one thing, but for him, people do it, they do worse. But I wanted to be able to provide better for him. And that meant I had to step up my game, because he certainly wasn't going to contribute at almost 5.
Right.
Yeah. So it was really that he was my motivator at that time.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And our kids are big motivators, right? They give us drive, they push us, they test us, they help us to find out more about ourselves. So they're great to have, and I love that. So, what was the next step for you? So here you are, you're like, I have this kid, I need to make a better life for him. And what did you do next?
Well, like I said, so then I reached out to the financial planners, and I don't even remember what made me have that thought. I just remember that I did
Oh,
it.
okay, okay,
And I really did stay in very close touch with them. I don't know. I just had the feeling that that was going to be a big help in my life. I'm still to this day in contact with them several times a year, actually.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so that, again, like getting a good paying job, even if it meant working really far away, um, that was definitely the next step. Oh, and fixing my credit score, because I knew eventually I was going to need that.
Yeah, to, get an apartment, to get a car,
Right.
to get a loans or whatever it is that was next for you.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess I would add to that that part of the mental shift is also understanding you can't do it alone, right? Again, I'm going to
Mm.
refer to other highly successful people, right? Like I'm now a life coach. I have a coach. Highly successful people don't do it alone. They have help, they have coaches, they ask for help, they fail, and they then get back up and they succeed. So the
Yes,
realization
100%.
that I needed to not try to do it on my own was another shift.
That's really great because I think as women, we don't like to ask for help. Can you hear my dog snoring?
I
Do you hear my dog?
cannot.
Okay, good. She's like
I
right
do
next to me.
not.
So, okay. Make sure you guys cut that part out.
Your video
I
is a little pixely though.
Yeah, yours is too, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Okay.
Um, so as women, we don't really tend to ask for help. We tend to one wear a lot of hats, but we don't tend to ask for a lot of help. And I love that you stepped out and did that. And also that you're pointing out like successful people have multiple, I call it wise counsel. They have people around them that are going to help them to build the life that they want to build. And you did that early on. Like something said, I need these women in my life, or men, I'm not your financial advisors in
Yeah.
my life to help me move forward and move in the direction that I wanted to go. And I think that's important. And now you support people that way by being a life coach, which yeah, coaches need coaches. Like, yes,
Yeah.
100%. So, what are some things that you see people dealing with, with the self doubt and these fears?
Um, I see a few people actually that I'm pretty close with. They multitask, they get busy, they don't necessarily focus, and they allow their fears to either keep them from moving forward or to fake them into thinking that they don't know how to move forward, right? And the
Mm,
problem with that is, well, here I am and I'm trying to help these people, but they're not reaching out for my help. They're not accepting it. And that's part of, oh, but I'm so busy. Oh, but, I can't.
like they don't have time.
They don't have time or they think they don't have
They,
time, right? Sometimes, I'll tell you, because I do a lot of things, I wear a lot of hats. Sometimes we think we don't have time, but you would be surprised if you really sit down and take action on your schedule. You learn to make time for the things that really matter.
yes,
Right.
that's
People
true.
spend a
People,
lot of time on things that don't matter. I know this one woman, she's actually currently unemployed. And almost every week I see her posting on Facebook. She's traveling here and she's traveling there. And I'm like, and what are you doing about your job applications?
yeah, yeah, because she's probably putting that on a credit card and not, making minimum payments and
Well, that too. I haven't even asked her about that, but I just see her again. It's about priority, right? She
absolutely.
she says, "Well, I'm so busy and I have so many things going on." But what are those things that you have going on, right? Where are your priorities?
That is a good question to ask yourself because we will make time for what's important to us. So that is a good point. And so maybe what are some things we should be asking ourselves? Like, okay, we have this fear, we have this doubt, we need to get some help because we just need to. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. You just need to get some help because, and
Yeah.
it's not because you can't do it, but sometimes we need a guide.
Right.
We need somebody that sees things outside of the box that we've put ourselves in,
Right.
with no emotional attachment to it. And that's where coaches come in, right? Because they're looking at that outside of the box kind of thing. Um, so, what are some questions we should be asking ourselves when we have these fears and doubts and saying, "I'm too busy to get a coach or financial advisor or whatever"?
Yep, that's a great question. So I like to say, besides asking yourself the question, write it down. That was a
Mm,
lesson I learned when starting Aspire. I was one of those people, I hated writing down my goals. I never did. I was afraid if I wrote it down, I would feel like I failed if I didn't make it there soon enough or didn't make it at all. When I wanted to start my business, it was a Friday when I made the decision and I wrote it down. Now you ask yourself, where are you now? You write that down. Then
Mm.
you say, where do I want to be? You can pick long term, short term, write that down. And then in between, what action do I need to take to get from here to there? So I did that. It was that Friday. I decided to start my business. I'm here. I want my business. This is what I need to do. And I even specifically picked a date. I said by the following Friday. By that following Friday, I had my paperwork in hand, paid for, signed, sealed, and delivered. And I was very excited. But yeah, so the questions you should ask are, where am I now? Right? Like, really, my work, my family, whatever your priority is, whatever you feel stuck in, whatever you want to move forward in, where are you with that now? Write it down. Where do you want it to be? Write it down. Okay, now what do I need to do to affect that change?
Those are great. And I love that you said to write it down because, there's studies and a lot of experts say we have to write things down
Because
because we
you
have
hold
so,
yourself more accountable.
right, right. And then it gets out of your head, right? It's out of your head, it's on paper, and you can put the steps like, okay, step one, two, and three, this is what I have to do. And you have it on paper instead of thinking, okay, what was step one?
Yeah.
And how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's
that's a
really
great,
good when you have a busy mind. Like people say they go to sleep and they can't sleep because they're thinking all the tasks and chores and things they need to do. Write it down.
exactly. And I have a ton of post-it notes because that's where I write my thoughts down of things
Yeah,
I need to
perfect.
accomplish.
Perfect.
So, what are some other ways we can overcome, fear and self-doubt? And do you think fear and self-doubt kind of go hand in hand? Are they the same thing? How do they differ?
I mean, they can be different. You can certainly be afraid of something without self doubt. They generally tend to go hand in hand, but they don't have to. Um, I mean, the first step, of course, is recognizing it. Right? You can't move forward if you don't recognize that you're stuck.
So, no, that's
So,
great. So, awareness. So, how do we do that?
um, it's hard to say. If a lot of times I find we don't listen. Your friends, your family, your coworkers might be telling you something and you're going like this. You're not
Mm,
listening. You can hear, but you don't necessarily listen. So if somebody asks you, oh, you seem downtrodden or upset or what's stressing you, they're asking questions, that could be your red flag to say, maybe I need to look more closely at what's going on.
okay, that's good because sometimes we don't really know we have something, right?
Right.
And we have to look for those things or listen for those things of people saying, this might be a little bit of a red flag. And then take a look at ourselves instead of taking offense to what they're
Correct.
saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then what would be the next step? So we become aware. What are some other things we can do to, crush this fear and self-doubt? Or maybe it's something, are we going to always have it, and how do we combat it?
I mean, you will usually have it, at different points along the way. Again, even the most successful people have failures, right? We can't learn without failing. Um, but it's recognizing it. And then once you recognize it, you have to analyze it. What do you
Mm,
want to do about it? Do you actually want to continue and fix it? Do you want to ignore it and get rid of it? So you think about your options and then again, write it down. What do you need to do to move forward? And as far as the self doubts, sometimes it can be tough depending on how far in that self doubt you are. How in the dark are you with yourself? Try again, write it down. What do you bring to the table? What are the positive things that you bring to the table?
mm. So writing down things that you're good at or things
Mm-hmm.
that you've accomplished. and looking at the
Correct.
positive side instead of saying, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worth it, which
Right.
I think you said was a conversation you had with yourself. Um,
And
and
then
then,
even further, so if you say, I can't, like you write down, I'm here, I want to be here, this is what I need to do, but then you say, but I can't. Well,
mm,
why? Why can't you? What is it about you personally that is giving you that I can't?
so really just analyzing those thoughts, analyzing why you think you can't, why you having the self-doubt, what's bringing it around. I love that.
Right. Yeah. And then change it. Okay, well, if I can't do it because of A, what can I change about A to create a B that
Mm.
then allows me to say, well, oh, yes, I can do that.
Or maybe I need to get some help or guidance.
That's correct. That's correct.
I love those are great. That's great advice and great tips on, just being able to combat the fear and the self doubt. One, knowing that other people deal with it, like it's something that could be ongoing, might be ongoing. Maybe self doubt will show up in different ways as you go to that next level. Um, that fear, that self doubt can show up, and how to combat that. And I think that's important because we are our own worst critic. I mean, we beat the crap out of ourselves and we
Yes.
need to stop. We need to build ourselves up because, yeah, we could have other people doing that, but it's really what we believe about ourselves. I think that's going to move us forward and into the direction that we want to go.
Right. And a good point, too, is like most things, it gets easier with practice. For
Mm,
myself, because I've had to come through so much, and because I know, as you asked, that fears, self doubts, failures will always creep up, you're not ready for it like, oh my God, tomorrow's going to be a bad day because this might happen. You don't think that way, but you're ready for it because out of practice and being more self aware, when it happens, you recognize it more quickly and you deal with it more quickly.
right. Practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah, well, it makes much better. How about
Yes,
that?
we'll say that much better. Well, this was an amazing conversation. I enjoyed it so much. So, if they want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook under Aspire Life Coaching, and Aspire with a Y because I'm motivating your why to the next level. I'm
I
on
love that.
Instagram under Aspire Life Coaching, and I'm also on LinkedIn. And I have a place where you can go to schedule a free consultation on my Calendly, which is also Aspire Life Coaching.
That's awesome. And we'll have all that stuff in the show notes for you guys so you don't have to worry about pausing or trying to write that down or even trying to remember it. But thank you again so much for being here, Dawn. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for being here and listening. I am Dawnette Palmore, your host, and I'm on a mission to empower you to give your money more purpose so you can live your purpose. Thank you for listening to Your Money on Purpose podcast. If you got value out of this episode, I would be forever grateful if you would leave a review and then hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast so that you never miss an episode. Thank you again for being here, and until next time, remember, money is just a tool that we get to use to live out our purpose.